So, the first Jonathan Light had been born in Kent in 16 something, and he had married a Matilda something, had come to Boston, and had 4 sons and 3 daughters, and they, all 7, had sons and daughters, and so on. Now he was coming to the generation in which he might expect to find his own mother. Here, indeed, was Merchant Light himself, and his daughter Lavinia, the 2 sons who had drowned at Guadalupe, the girls dead in infancy. He even found that Aunt Bert, who had stayed on at Boston with her own servant. He found one Lavinia Light after another, one married in Endicott, and one in Otis. Neither was the right age for his mother. Scratched out in such a way he had at first thought it was a mere decoration on the elaborately written page, there was another name. It was Lavinia Light. He held the lantern closer. Born 1740. Married to Dr. Charles Latour, both of whom had died of plague in Marseille shortly before his own birth. His mother had told him he had been born in France, and that his father had died before his own birth. But why Dr. Charles Latour? And why had his mother's name been scratched off the family record? But nevertheless, this was the spot, the very spot where he might hang his own few meager leaves to the light tree. Although in his daydreaming he had often pictured himself a nephew, grandnephew, or even a grandson of Merchant Light, he had never once believed the relationship was that close. Now he checked over the generations. His grandfather, Roger Light, dead now for 20 years, and builder of this very house, had been the younger brother of Jonathan Light. Johnny himself was the merchant's grand-nephew. He took his knife from his pocket and cut the pages from the family Bible. Sometime they might be of use to him. Scylla was calling him. She wanted him to help her carry the heavy boxes and hampers of silver to the chase. On the sideboard, as yet unpacked, stood the 4 standing cups of the lights. "Which one is yours, Johnny?" He looked them over carefully. Only a silversmith could have told them apart. The base of one had been ever so little bent and straightened again. "This is my cup." "Take it now." "No." He set it down and turned restlessly to Scylla. He could not say to anyone what went through his mind, not to Scylla, not even to himself. He acted and spoke blindly. "It's no good to me. We've moved on to other things. But it isn't stealing to take back what Mr. Light stole from you. I don't want it." "What?" "No. I'm better off without it. I want nothing of them. Neither their blood nor their silver. I'll carry that hamper for you, Syl. Mr. Light can have the old cup." "But your mother?" "She didn't like it either." He came back when he had left the hamper and stopped by the kitchen hearth. Scylla had built up a little fire of faggots to heat water. He put his 2 hands on the mantelpiece and his forehead on his hands. He stood like that a long time. His grandfather had built this great house. His mother had played on the floor of this kitchen. Was it here his father had come? His father, the French doctor? Dr. Latour, the Bible had it. Here was mystery surely. Why not Dr. Tremain? And why had the Bible said both he and Lavinia Light died of plague in Marseille, 1758, 3 months before he himself had been born? Does it matter? Does it, or doesn't it? No. He answered his own question aloud, and took from his pocket the heavy pages he had cut from the Bible, all written over with the names of his genealogy. He could not think now why he had ever cut them out. Slowly, tearing each sheet to ribbons, he fed them to the fire upon the hearth. Then Scylla was asking him to close and fasten all the heavy shutters through the house. This would protect the interior a little, in spite of broken window panes. His footsteps echoed through the vast, silent reaches of the house. One after another, the heavy shutters slammed to, and he bolted them. A protest of unused hinges, and then a bang, and he went on to the next, the echo of his own footsteps. My grandfather built this house. My mother knew it and loved it. My father dead before I was ever born. Now, for as long as it stood, this would be a haunted house. He felt the ghosts waiting in darkness until he and Scylla were gone before they stepped forth to take possession. Merchant Light, soon enough, he too would be back here. Miss Lavinia, she might live to be 100, but the time would come when, wilt she or not, she must return to this house. This haunted house, with its thin wreath of wraiths and his mother's among them. He had seen her face, heard her voice so clearly that night he had lain by her grave on Copp's Hill. He thought of her with love and a tender understanding, an understanding he had been too young to give when she had died. But he left the haunted chambers, echoing halls, and went gladly to the kitchen where Scylla was. For the dead should not look at the living, nor the living too long upon the dead. Scylla, unaware of his emotions, looked about her with satisfaction. She had finished her work. Now we'll be in good order when the lights come back. Johnny felt sad. He went to her and put his arms about her and his thin cheek against her hair. Scylla, they won't ever come back. Never? No. This is the end. The end of one thing. The beginning of something else. They won't come back because there's going to be a war. Civil war. And we'll win. First folk like them get routed out of Milton, then out of Boston. And the cards are going to be shuffled, reshuffled, dealt again. Shall I shutter the kitchen too? Yes. Each time a shutter groaned, protested, and then came to with a bang, it seemed to say, "This is the end." And the words echoed through the house. This is the end. This is the end. My mother played on the floor of this kitchen. My grandfather was but a young man when he built this house, and I, a grandson, have better right to it doubtless than an elder brother. The house was still filled with midnight and ghosts, but as they closed and locked the heavy kitchen door behind them, they saw it was close upon dawn. It's like a funeral, Scylla whispered, only worse. So she knew that much of what he had been feeling, Scylla had also felt. Along down Old Country Road, marching through the meager half-light of the new day, came a company of Minutemen up and out early, drilling for coming battles before it was yet the hour to get to their chores. Left, right, left, right, left. They did not march too well. A boy, no bigger than Dusty Miller, had put a fife to his lips, was trying to blow it. He made awkward little toodles. The men marched on past the defaced gates of the Light's country seat, never turning to look at them or Dr. Warren's chase with Scylla and Johnny under the hood. Oh, God help them, thought Johnny. They haven't seen those British troops in Boston. I have. They haven't seen the gold lace on the generals, those muskets, all so alike, and everyone has a bayonet. They haven't seen. The chase overtook and passed the marching farmers.